Hello everyone, this is Dr. Madhuri, Team MDS Conquer. So we'll see about the embolism in this video. So if you take the definition of the embolism is a process which may cause a partial or a complete obstruction. And this complete obstruction or partial obstruction you can see in the cardiovascular system, and this is because of the mass which is carried into the circulation. Okay, and the mass which is detached from the site of its origin is called as a embolus, and the process of a partial or complete obstruction is called as a embolism. And this is the classification of the emboli. Here they can ask about the type of emboli. So depending upon the matter in the emboli, it may be of a solid, liquid, or a gaseous. And the solid emboli includes like detached thrombi like thromboemboli. So this is important. Thromboemboli is a solid type of emboli. Atheromatous material, tumor cell clumps, tissue fragments, parasites, bacterial clumps, and foreign bodies. Whereas liquid emboli includes fat globules, amniotic fluid emboli, and bone marrow emboli. And the gaseous includes example air emboli. So this is based upon the matter. If you take the emboli, depending upon whether they are infected or not, it is bland emboli, that is a sterile emboli. In the septic emboli, when it is infected, the emboli is called as a septic emboli. And the third group of classification is depending upon the source of emboli. Okay, and depending upon the source of emboli, it is cardiac emboli, which is from the left side of the heart, arterial emboli, venous emboli, and the lymphatic emboli. These are based on the source of the emboli. Then this is important classification, that is a paradoxical embolus and the retrograde embolus. This is depend upon the flow of blood. So this paradoxical embolus means this embolus is carried from the venous side of the circulation to the arterial side, or vice versa, is called as a paradoxical. That means it can be carried out from a venous side of circulation to arterial side, or a arterial side to the venous side. It is called as a paradoxical or a crossed embolus. Okay, example includes through arteriovenous communication, the septal defect of the heart, and arteriovenous shunts in the lungs. These are the examples of the paradoxical embolus. That means which can cross over. Where if you take the retrograde embolus, the embolus which travels against the flow of blood is called as a retrograde example. The important example for this retrograde emboli is your metastatic deposits. That is example like metastatic deposits in the spine from the carcinoma prostate. And you can also mention the example like metastatic deposits in the lungs, or in a prostate. Lungs can go, and like it can move to the jaw also. So these are the, like they are moving against the flow of blood, and they are called as a retrograde emboli. So that is the classification for the emboli, and here this is the common origin. Okay, for the pulmonary embolism, the common origin is your veins of lower legs. Systemic embolism, left ventricle. Fat embolism is the trauma to the bone or soft tissues. Air embolism, for in the venous, it is head and neck operations and obstetrical trauma is the common origin for the air embolism, whereas cardiothoracic surgery and angiography are the arterial common origin of air embolism. The decompression sickness, it is very important. It is descent in descent, it is in diverse, and ascent in unpressurized flight. In these two things, the decompression sickness can be seen. This is very important. Then the amniotic fluid embolism, the common origin is components of amniotic fluid. Atheroembolism will be of your atheromatous plaques, and the tumor embolism will be of your tumor fragments. Then these are the common origins of this thromboembolism. Arterial thromboembolism, the most common origin is from your heart, and these are the examples like mural thrombi, vegetative mural endocarditis, valvular endocarditis, and cardiomyopathy. And in the lungs, the pulmonary veins are the most common, and in the systemic, aortic sclerosis, carotid atherosclerosis, and aortic aneurysms are the most common originating forms. Whereas in the venous thrombolism, the systemic deep vein thrombosis is the most common systemic form of venous thrombolism. Others include in pelvic veins, cavernous sinus, heart, right side of the heart, and lungs is the pulmonary artery. This remember. Pulmonary artery is for the venous thromboembolism, whereas pulmonary veins is for the arterial embolism. And the most common here is the heart for arterial, whereas venous it is the deep vein thrombosis. These four are the important points. Then this is the difference between the pulmonary thrombosis and the pulmonary thromboembolism. Okay, and the pathogenesis involved here will be of locally formed, whereas emboli, as the name indicates, it will travel from the distance. Location will be of in the small arteries, whereas the thromboembolism will be in your major arteries. Whereas it is firmly adherent to the vessel wall, it is loosely attached to the vessel wall. This is head will be pale and tail will be red, and here there is no distinction in head and tail, and a smooth surfaced dry dull surface can be seen. And the microscopy, this is very important. Platelets and fibrin layers and lines of Zan are seen, whereas it is mixed with the blood clot, and lines of Zan are very rare. Here these are seen. Okay, these are the important differences between the pulmonary thrombosis and the pulmonary thromboembolism. And these are the sources of this pulmonary thromboembolism, which leads to the formation consequences, important consequences, that pulmonary thromboembolism may ends up with a sudden death, acute cor pulmonale, or a pulmonary infarction, or a pulmonary hemorrhage, pulmonary hypertension, or a resolution. So these are the consequences of the pulmonary thromboembolism. Then coming to the fat embolism. Okay, here the fat embolism is mainly because of arteries and capillaries obstructed with the fat globules, and if the obstruction is because of the adipose tissue, it is called as a fat tissue embolism. So these are the causes of fat embolism, that is the traumatic causes and the non-traumatic causes. Traumatic causes includes the trauma to the bone and soft tissues, whereas these non-traumatic causes includes extensive burns, diabetes mellitus, fatty liver, pancreatitis, sickle cell anemia, decompression sickness, inflammation, extrinsic fat or oils introduced into the body, hyperlipidemia, and cardiopulmonary bypass surgery. So these are the non-traumatic causes for your fat embolism. So if you take the pathogenesis of this fat embolism, there are 4 theories. The first theory is of your mechanical theory. As the name indicates, mechanical means the mobilization. Okay, the mobilization of fluid fat may occur because of the bone trauma. This trauma or to the bone or the soft tissues. Okay, this mechanical theory tells that the mobilization of the fluid fat may occur because of a trauma to the bone or a soft tissue, and because of this trauma, the fat globules from the injured area, if there is an injury, this fat globules from this injurious area may enter into the venous circulation, and finally most of the fat will be arrested in the small vessels which in the lungs. Okay, so from this injurious region only the fat globules will travel. So this is the mechanical theory. Then the second one is your emulsion instability theory. This emulsion instability theory explains the fat embolism in non-traumatic cases. This explains in traumatic cases, this explains in the non-traumatic cases. And according to this theory, the fat emboli are formed due to aggregation of plasma lipids. Examples like chylomicrons and fatty acids will aggregate and form the fat emboli. Okay, this is because of the disturbance in the natural emulsification of fat. Because of the disturbance in the natural emulsification of the fat, there is the aggregation of the fatty acids and chylomicrons which form the fat emboli. So this is the emulsion instability theory. Then there is a intravascular coagulation theory. This intravascular coagulation theory, this is because of the in stress cases, some factors may release and they activate the disseminated intravascular coagulation, DIC. Because of the stress, DIC is formed, and then which results in the formation of the fat emboli. And finally, the toxic injury theory. This is because of when the small blood vessels of lungs are chemically injured by the high plasma levels of free fatty acids, it results in the formation of the pulmonary edema and finally the thrombi. So this is because of the increased chemically injured high plasma levels of free fatty acid, which increase the vascular permeability and finally forms the pulmonary edema and the fat emboli. So this is the toxic injury theory. Then coming to the pulmonary fat, these are the these are the effects of consequences of fat embolism. That means it may lead to the pulmonary fat embolism or other systemic fat embolisms, like it may form a emboli in kidney, brain, etc. So in pulmonary fat embolism, if you see the microscopically, there is hyperemia, edema and petechial hemorrhages. And in the routine stains, the fat globules in pulmonary arteries, capillaries and alveolar spaces appear as vacuoles. This is very important point. And the frozen section is essential for the formation of globules by fat stains. So these things are important things related to the pulmonary fat embolism. And the systemic fat embolism includes the brain. In brain, you can see the petechial hemorrhages and microinfarcts, edema and hemorrhages are seen. And in the kidney, because of this fat embolism, there will be of a decreased glomerular filtration rate. Then that is about fat embolism. Now coming to the air embolism. Here the air embolism is because of the air or a nitrogen and other gases. Okay, these will produce the bubbles in the circulation and it will obstruct the blood vessels. And if you see this gas embolism, it is of two types, that is air embolism and the decompression sickness. For us, the decompression sickness is very important. So again, the air embolism may be of a venous air embolism. This is because of the operations on head and neck trauma, obstetrical operations, intravenous infusion and angiography. These are the important reasons for the venous air embolism. We have seen that the air embolism is of air embolism and the decompression sickness, right? So air embolism again may be because of venous air embolism or a arterial air embolism. This is because of the cardiothoracic surgery and the paradoxical air embolism and the arteriography. And here in the paradoxical, due to passage of venous air emboli to the arterial side of circulation through a patent foramen ovale or a pulmonary arteriovenous shunts. This is the example for the paradoxical air embolism. And the final third reason will be of a arteriography. Then here comes the important decompression sickness. Okay, and why this decompression sickness? It is a form of air embolism, right? So this is a specialized form of a gas embolism where you can see names and by various names, and it has a various names like Caissen's disease or a diverse palsy or aeroembolism. So these are the various names for this decompression sickness. Here the what happens means the pathogenesis is usually the divers or divers or workers in the caissons, that is in the diving bells, they will descend to high atmospheric pressure. That means they'll go to a high atmospheric pressure, and at this high atmospheric pressure you will see that the atmospheric gases, mainly the nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, will increased and dissolve in the blood. Okay, so at high atmosphere, when these divers, first they'll go to the high atmospheric pressure, right? So at the high atmospheric pressure, all these atmospheric gases like nitrogen, oxygen will be dissolved in the blood, and increased amount of this will be dissolved in the blood. So if this diver ascend too rapidly, that means he will comes to normal level suddenly from the high altitude to the lower ground level. He will jump suddenly, right? So because of that sudden jumping, the from the high atmospheric pressure, the gases will come out of the blood. The gases will come out of the blood and forms a minute bubbles, and this minute bubbles will result in the formation of a emboli. So this is the pathogenesis behind the decompression sickness. And this decompression sickness, there are 4 effects, that is, it depends upon depth or altitude reached, duration, and rate of ascent or descent, and general condition of the individual. So these are the important effects of decompression sickness. Then this will have a 2 clinical forms, that is acute form and a chronic form, that is decompression sickness. In acute forms, the bends, that is as patient doubles up in bed due to acute pain, they'll have a acute pain in joints and ligaments and tendons. Then the chokes occur because of the accumulation of bubbles in the lungs, and the cerebral effects may manifest in the form of a vertigo, coma, and sometimes death. These are the acute form of decompression sickness. When you take the chronic form, this is due to foci of ischemic necrosis. This is very important. The chronic form of decompression sickness is because of the foci of ischemic necrosis. And this is especially because of the avascular necrosis of the bone. You can see the avascular necrosis in this chronic symptoms. You can see the neurological symptoms, lung involvement in the form of hemorrhage and edema, skin manifestations can be seen, and other organs like parenchymal cells of liver and pancreas also show the lipid vacuoles. Okay, these are the effects in the symptoms of the chronic form of decompression sickness. Then coming to the amniotic fluid embolism. Then amniotic fluid embolism is mainly because of the amniotic fluid, and this will characterized by these features, that is sudden respiratory distress, deep cyanosis, cardiovascular shock, convulsions, coma, and unexpected death. Then the cause of death is because of the amniotic fluid embolism is mainly because of mechanical blockage of the pulmonary circulation, or a anaphylactic reaction, or a disseminated intravascular coagulation, or a hemorrhagic manifestations. Okay, these are the causes of death of the amniotic fluid embolism. And finally, the atheroembolism. This is the pathologic effects in this atheroembolism will be of ischemia, infarcts, gangrene, hypotension. So these are the 4 important effects, pathological changes and effects in the atheroembolism which need to be remembered. So that's all for the embolism. And mainly embolism, you have to concentrate on the decompression sickness, which is more important. Okay, thank you, and stay positive. Happy learning with MDS Conquer.